Have you ever seen the movie The Matrix? When they show from Neo's eyes and he sees the agent in the ones and zeros and like he can perfectly see everything, right?
Yeah.
I think of real estate like this. Now, I don't think that I'm exactly gifted in it. I think that anyone who is spending every day of the week, every moment they're awake, studying the industry and studying markets, I think it's just visible. You see the ones and zeros. You see why a market is headed for a growth trajectory. You see the economic drivers, and then oh, a multifamily building would make sense over there. Or for me, though, I had one of these mentors on the topic of mentorship. He would say to me that there's two ways to get into real estate. It's either with money or with knowledge. And I would argue that there's a third way, and that's with finding the deal.
Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Real Estate Pro Show. I'm your host, Erika, and today I'm thrilled to be joined by Darren Seid. He's been making serious moves in the commercial and multifamily investing space. Darren, we're so glad to have you on the show.
Thank you, Erika. Pleasure to meet you. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So let's dive right in, Darren. For our listeners who may not be familiar with your world, give us the rundown. How did you get started in real estate?
I actually got started in retail leasing in New York City. I had a friend that was in that business, and I was cycling out of a minor league hockey career as a player and a coach. And I didn't really want to leave hockey at the time, but where I was at and the kind of money there and the age I was getting to, it was time. And a friend of mine offered this opportunity to do some retail leasing in New York City. And I wasn't such a fan of it, but I dove in, and they happened to be a development shop that was working on a lot of cool things. They were developing a 55-key boutique hotel that happened to be right next door to where I was living in New York City, in the neighborhood of Nolita. Actually, the hotel is called the Nolitin after the neighborhood Nolita, and some other really exciting things, value add, and some condo deals in Soho. And it was a great place to get my feet wet, learn about the industry, and then I really started to get excited about development and the multifamily rental space, and eventually moved on to another company, opened my company, and the beat goes on. And now I focus specifically outside of the boroughs. I came up in New York City working for these other companies and cut my teeth there, and it was incredible to make relationships there. And there's a saying, if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. And I believe that that's true. I believe there's a lot of competition and incredible companies in these other areas that I play in now, but there's nothing like the New York City Department of Buildings and that capital environment and the competitive nature of all the players going after deals. You have to go hard deposit on every deal that you buy. In other markets, you could do a soft deposit and actually have a due diligence period. before laying out money. So I focus now my energy in multifamily rental.
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
Outside of the five boroughs, but in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, in close proximity to New York City. In the very beginning, I was tied to New York City in a way. Like if you ask my criteria, I would say that, oh, you have to be arm's length from the New York City job market, but that's not the case in my investment criteria anymore. I have branched out pretty far from the New York City job market, but still New York, New Jersey, Connecticut.
Yeah, wow. What a journey. And what was it like for you, starting your own company and making that leap then? What would you describe it as an actual leap or, was there kind of more a transition period to make it a little smoother?
Erica, I am all leap. It is all leap. Okay. So I was at Pinkstone Capital Group. This is now the second shop that I was at in New York City. And I had a friend that was doing deals outside of the boroughs. And he's showing me the returns, multifamily rental, and which is exactly what I wanted. That's my risk tolerance. I like betting on that's one of the most secure and reliable entities in the investment space is the American tenant. And in my case, the Northeast American tenant. So I like to bet on the rental, multifamily rental space and the rental communities outside of this New York City area, the tri-state area. And so this friend of mine, he's doing deals and he's raising money from investors. And by the time he builds the deal, by the time he gets to the permanent financing, he's returning all of the equity and then some. And this is in like 2011, 12, 13. This is like the golden years for doing that. But I was extremely attracted to that. So I started chasing around these marketplaces for deals. And I would go in the evenings and go to their planning and zoning meetings. I'd go on the weekends and I'd take the zoning map and drive around and look at sites and study my site selection. And at the planning and zoning meetings, I'd shake the hand of the people that are there, the people that are presenting well for their clients, the zoning council and legal teams and architects and find, hey, where else are you working? What else are you doing out there? And are there any pilots in the markets that a pilot is a payment in lieu of taxes? It's like a tax abatement program. Are there any pilots? I'd ask them in any other markets that you're working on, who's pro development, who's not. And I would build this network of people and information to chase deals. This is all while I was working at Pinkstone Capital Group. So the leap that I took, ultimately, Pinkstone didn't want to spend any time out there. He was like, look, you could do this stuff as long as you're doing it on your own and you're not disturbing your efforts here. But feel free. So I went and I did all this stuff and put together a couple deals and then eventually went out on my own with a whole network of people and information for when I was going to put my money in play. Like at Pinkstone, I was just an employee. I wasn't putting my money into the real estate game. So yeah, I'm all leap, and that was the big leap is to leave Pinkstone Capital Group where we were working on some incredible projects, a 55-story tower in the financial district of Manhattan that ultimately, even after leaving Pinkstone as an advisor, I negotiated a JV partnership with Grubb Properties out of North Carolina for where they redesigned it to a 66-story tower, 462 units with Handel Architects, incredible project. And I was so fortunate to work on it, work with all those people, but I wasn't putting my money in it, so my money is outside in these other areas that return a little bit better on a year-to-year basis and a yield on cost and IRR and equity multiple. Unless New York City sees a crazy appreciation, you're really at lower return rates than what I'm faced with out in the tri-state area outside of the boroughs.
Yeah, yeah. And with being, out on your own, you said did have a network with you, which is
If you're looking for consistent, high quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency, it's the most sophisticated, data driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
awesome that you had built that before you left. But what were some of the challenges of going out on your own then?
Erica, there's no, I believe in mentorship and menteeship and forming relationships in the industry that last and in both directions, whether I'm seeking the mentor or I'm being the mentor. I believe in it wholeheartedly. And that was huge for me to have these relationships. However, I cannot get on the phone with anyone and they say, oh, look at page 206 in the book and it's going to tell you the exact answer to the question. Like there's no book to flip to, no page to turn to, and no mentor, no matter how experienced or seasoned they are, nobody can definitely give me, I'm the one that has to live with the answer. I'm the one that has to answer to my investors. It's a challenge to know that I'm definitely correct. So I let that drive me. I let that drive my analysis and my homework, and I go really deep when I'm understanding an investment. And is this worth my time, my energy, my investors' time, energy, everyone's opportunity cost? I try to let it drive me to be ultra meticulous so that, look, if something goes wrong, it was nothing that anyone could have foreseen, like COVID or a crazy interest rate rise or like we're not making a mistake that we could have more homework could have solved the problem. I try to go as deep as possible to remove that risk from the table. But there's, you go out into any entrepreneurship, any field where you're an entrepreneur and I think you're going to deal with this, not just making bets on real estate. But just to put a bow on that, ultimately what I'm doing is when I bet on the American renter, I'm just going into a community that's already getting rent. And I'm saying another building right over there can get the same rent, right? So it's not like I'm betting on a cryptocurrency. And don't get me wrong, a lot of money to be made there, and people have done incredibly well, and people have also lost a lot. I'm not speculating on a penny stock. I'm not even buying a blue chip or what. The American renter, they're already in the market that I'm going. And I'm saying you could come and live in this building for the same price, right? And it's a newer building where I've seen what maybe some other buildings in the market did right or did wrong, and I'm putting my spin on it. So it's not really a bet, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And your passion for finding deals and negotiating deals is really unique. And you had said to me earlier that you would describe it like an art form. Can you talk more about that and how that sets you apart?
Have you ever seen the movie The Matrix?
Yeah.
Okay, you see when they show from Neo's eyes and he sees the agent in the ones and zeros and like he can perfectly see everything, right?
Yeah.
I think of real estate like this. Now, I don't think that I'm exactly gifted in it. I think that anyone who is spending every day of the week, every moment they're awake, studying the industry and reading the articles and studying markets, I think it's just visible. You see the ones and zeros. You see why a market is headed for a growth trajectory. You see the economic drivers and the jobs that are coming into a marketplace, the life science office space that's being developed, and oh, a multifamily building would make sense over there, or some other economic drivers that just make sense to people that you would put a multifamily rental next to it. I don't think it's difficult to uncover that. For me though, I had one of these mentors on the topic of mentorship. He would say to me that there's two ways to get into real estate. It's either with money or with knowledge. And I would argue that there's a third way, and that's with finding the deal.
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
And you could put that under knowledge probably, but finding the deal, knowing that it's a deal, knowing what to look for, why it is a deal, why it's going to appeal to investors, why it's going to appeal to the tenants, why it's going to appeal to a sale on the exit when I'm done building the development, right? That value that I'm going to create, that someone's going to want to buy it. Um, and then also, what can I do creatively to enter that deal? What can I do with the land seller? What can I do creatively on the capital structuring? What can I do to maybe add some value before I raise money? Like in my case of doing a ground up development, I can potentially in these markets, not in the five boroughs, which I learned by working there, but in these other markets, you could arguably get a deal under contract for limited money, take it through some planning and zoning work to add value to either bring it to a site plan approval or potentially even change the zoning and bring it to a site plan approval before raising any outside funds into it. Or even if it's you've raised some money already to get to that point, you can then raise the bulk of the funds after creating that additional value. And I say this from experience. I've done this on multiple occasions where I find the deal. I have yet to even have to lay out the cash to buy the land, and I've changed the zoning, got site plan approval with my own money, and then brought in the outside funds. And I've really created a spread at that point between price and value. And that's what a developer really gets paid to do, is to create a spread between price and value.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really awesome to kind of take a step back with that process when you're first looking at a space and you don't know what you can do with it yet, how you can change the zoning. How do you evaluate the potential there?
I think that you have to be a zoning expert. In doing ground up development, you got to be somewhat of a zoning expert. And all the tools are available. It's not like it's not such a sweet science to figure this out. I'm talking about Neo with the ones and zeros, and you just have to have a feel for it. But really, it's not, it's all uncoverable. You could go into you click on a Google even. You don't even have to like know exactly how to find the website. Go to Google or even these days, Chat GPT, and you can look up the zoning of any market and start to understand. You could pull the zoning map. It's all publicly available information, and then read through the zoning code. Now, of course, there's people that are going to be better at it than others, and experience is the greatest teacher. So the more someone does it, the more they're going to learn. Zoning counsel get paid a lot of money for a good reason, because zoning code is complex and there's things to learn, but really it's laid out there. It's discoverable. So what I would do, and I was explaining some of this earlier, I would go around on the weekends and I'd pull out the zoning map and I'd go to areas that were zoned to allow for multifamily, and I would drive my car around and I'd walk the city. So before doing that, I'm only going to cities that I determined were investable. So if I see a certain rent being achieved in a city, like before, I'm saying how I bet on the American renter, and I go into markets where they're already performing. So I underwrite the city. I determine, oh, they're getting good rents there. I know the hard costs these days, the soft costs are roughly what they are. I have to get the land to trade at the right price. So now I'll go and I'll drive the city and I'll look at multifamily land and I'll knock on doors. I'll leave a leaflet, my phone number and everything. I would like to buy your land, whatever. And I would go around and study markets like this, and then study into the zoning, and then go. And even these days after COVID, it got put on steroids. All of these meetings are available. You could look up old meetings where they already conducted them. You could look up the meeting minutes. Everything's available online in most cities, at least the cities that I'm chasing for the most part. It's available online. I could go and see how pro development they are in the way they behaved in the planning and zoning meetings. And I could even go back in some cases and watch the planning and zoning meetings and watch them present. I can get architects' information from that, zoning council, the land use attorney, civil engineer. It's incredible, right? So doing all of that stuff and being able to go into the weeds, I can understand, oh, this is a market where the seller thinks they're selling me a piece of land that's 100,000 square feet of buildable square footage. So they're pricing it based on that. I know from studying the market and going through the old meetings, going through the meeting minutes, I know there's 3 sites around town comparable to that site where they changed the zoning and they maybe got double the zoning, right? I know that going in. So this seller, I'm still going to negotiate and try to get the best deal possible. He may sell me at par, right? For what but to me, I know what I'm buying. I'm buying that future value that I can create and that I can bring to my investors, and ideally with my own money from the beginning, and then bring that added value when I'm raising money later.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I love that approach. And you were talking about getting into the weeds with figuring all this zoning out. Have you ever gotten into the weeds and, maybe things got a little hairy with a deal? Maybe, things kind of went sideways or you had to pivot fast. Do you have any moments like that in your journey, Darren, that you can share, and any lessons along the way from it?
Y Yeah, absolutely. Every deal, it's crazy. Every deal has a story to it, sometimes multiple stories to it, because there's these pivotal moments in deals. One, the land negotiation, like say a ground up development, the land negotiation to buy it, the zoning analysis, and then what goes on in planning and zoning. Right? That's its own story, right? So you have the land negotiation with the seller, you have the planning and zoning analysis and what you think you might get, but maybe there's an element of risk, and you get into there with the community boards and the planning and zoning folks, and maybe you don't get exactly. I've been fortunate with my own company to get what I wanted out of that process, but there's other elements. Then there's the capitalization, raising the money, and that's its own whole exercise. And like I said, I don't have when we were talking earlier, a few $1 billion of discretionary funds sitting behind me. On each deal, I have to go out and raise in single purpose entities. I go and raise money in GPLP structures, and I have to sell each deal each time and sell myself each time to the investors. That has its own whole moment. Then the execution of the construction, that's its own story. Then on the back end, the permanent financing or the sale, the exit sale, whatever the strategy may be, the asset management. There's each of these different moments in time have their own story to them. For me, someone asked me a similar question in a different way recently. They asked me what was my biggest win. And to your point, my biggest win was avoiding a loss. And that to me, I could never. I'm gonna flub up the way he said it, but Warren Buffett, something to the effect of make money for someone and they'll keep coming back for the rest of their lives. Lose money one time. That's it. That's it. You may never hear from them again. So I can't lose. I absolutely can't lose. I would imagine most people think that way, but not everyone does. I think these huge companies, they get into so many deals that sometimes they miss. And I'm not criticizing anyone individually or whatever, but there's a bunch of companies that miss, and they just do so many deals over any given year or chunk of years that over the long haul they sell their investors on, well, if you're just with us in totality, you'll make all this money. In my case, I can't miss. And I was able to avoid a loss during the COVID situation when a delay got put into a deal, and I was in a dispute with one particular partner who wanted to partner in. I can't get into the details of it. We settled our differences, but I wanted to take the deal out to other partners. And at the time, I had to settle my differences with someone else, and it put a stall on things. And then the interest rate environment went crazy, and I had to thread the needle to put together a partnership at the final hour when the seller of the piece of land was banging on my door saying, "Hey, you're gonna buy this piece of land or what?" I was in contract the whole time while all this dispute was going on. And to me, avoiding a loss in that situation was my biggest win, and probably the answer to your question if I think about it from a zoning perspective. Fortunately, I'm such a psycho on homework and diligence that I haven't been, knock on wood, I haven't been, hitting with a surprise in my zoning. I go in with a base case, next tier up and best case scenario. And in each case I've thankfully superseded the base case.
Yeah, yeah. And one thing that you mentioned there that's, stood out to me was how you had to quickly form a partnership. And you really can't do that without having the base of like building a good network, building those relationships for when you need them. What kind of advice would you give to people when it comes to building their network in the real estate world?
I think people got to be just I think you got to jump in the deep end and figure out how to swim. I think my advice to say my younger self or anyone in the early stages is get after it as quickly as possible. Get into one. If you're working at a company, some companies they'll let the employees come into a deal, and that's great and that's exciting and but it's different than like going into a deal on your own. I would almost advise someone if they're at a company that lets you into the deal, that's great. But I would also maybe like do a small deal on the outside, if as long as you have a non-compete or whatever in respect of your whatever non-compete and not to be a distraction to your current endeavor, but like to be able to get in there and start doing it. Experience is the greatest teacher. I think that is going to teach somebody how to flow through that negotiation, how to go back and forth with their lawyer and deal with the partner that they're negotiating with, or raise some money for some from some investors and understand what that experience. Until facing the live rounds, I don't know how someone, you could watch all the classes and online, and there's great resources and look at documents, and that's all phenomenal. But like I was talking about earlier with Neo and the Matrix, I think the only way to know how to get into that dance and experience that dance is to have get in there and face the live rounds. And even if it's on some small, do a two unit deal on the side and pull together some investors, go for some family and friends money, just get in there because that document, a 3 family, 4 family, 2 family, that's a document that's probably not too dissimilar from a 30 unit deal or a 50 unit deal. And yes, as you get up in size and the sophistication of the investors, these documents are going to change. But the human behavior, the dance between partners, I think that's a human behavior that you're going to see in $100 million deal or a $5 million deal. To some respect. So my advice would be for someone to just get after it, find a deal, and start negotiating with the seller, with your partners, and get to know that dance a little bit. And maybe it's even good at lower stakes, right? Um, but you got to be able to have the bandwidth to do that. If you're at a company, in my case, I kind of, I left. I had a fee that came in on a deal, and I left one company, and I just talked about uh, a leap of faith earlier. Like I just went right into the deep end, and first deal I did outside of Pinkstone Capital Group was $112 million deal. People looked at me like I was crazy, like you know, that I had no business doing that as my first deal out. But I said, I'm going to figure it out. And I was able to and put together the partnership. And that was a 299 unit development that I'm still invested in. It's a great deal in New Haven, Connecticut. And I'm very excited to be, part of that partnership.
I love it. Well, your advice there, I mean, you're living it. So that's the awesome thing to hear that from you is, that you don't when you go with that plan and you stick with it and it's not on paper, it's that you're, living it out in real life that, you can find a way. So I have to ask that transition, must have been incredible. But, what do you see next on the horizon? What to you would be, the next big milestone with investing?
So I'm negotiating a few different pieces right now. Like I said earlier, I'm kind of a deal by deal guy. It's not that I have fund money that is just sitting there discretionary at the ready and I'm getting some AUM fee while the money is kind of burning in the background and I'm just looking for deals. I'm constantly looking for the next opportunity. I'm looking to wow investors. I don't like to flood my investors with deal flow and throw them every little thing that I look at. I like to be very selective and very disciplined in my approach that when my email hits an inbox that I have multiple investors from all different angles kind of vying to get into the deal with me. So we have a few of those that I'm negotiating right now in Jersey and Connecticut. I was telling you a little bit before we got moving that there's a deal that where I would be the master plan developer of an undisclosed amount of units, but hundreds of units with also a self-storage component on site, which to me, that helps. When I talk about entering a deal creatively and having creative structures, having another use on the site, I have to get that land seller to agree to a price that I think is reasonable and he doesn't want to. So how can I do it? I can bring in another use and another buyer essentially, and maybe combined, we're going to get there. We're going to appease the land seller. In that case, we may even do some seller financing. So it's a creative structure that I'm hoping to have that thing wrapped up by the end of the year, at least the negotiation. But development is a slow moving game sometimes. I think these next 12 months are going to be very exciting. I want to get my cash in the marketplace and be looking very pretty in about 3 to 5 years when those business plans play out into a different interest rate environment. Like I was saying to you earlier, I don't pencil different interest rate environment. Everything I pencil is in today's numbers. And even in the hard costs, to be conservative, I'll sometimes escalate the hard costs depending on how far out the business plan is, but I don't escalate my rents. I don't change the cap rates on my exit. I use today's numbers. I don't change the interest rates. I use today's numbers. However, I think we're in for some sunny skies ahead in the interest rate environment, and that's going to make some probably bad business plans look really good in about 4 or 5 years from now when people eventually exit.
Yeah, and you yourself, you have a very solid foundation with your approach and what you're doing. So what you have going on is really exciting, Darren. Before we wrap up, if someone wants to reach out, connect with you, maybe they want to collaborate on a deal, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Best way is probably email, but I'll give you my Instagram. I recently started posting on Instagram. It's at Darren Seid, at DarrenSeid. I also recently opened a YouTube channel. I'm trying to be part of the world. I think my investor base is only going to get younger over the years. So if I'm not participating in that piece of the world, I'm being neglectful to my company. That's how I see it. So I only just recently started using social media and putting myself out there like that and shows like this, podcasts and whatnot. I was always typically a handshake, a hug, networking events, that kind of thing. But you can reach me on Instagram, shoot me a DM, follow and shoot me a DM at Darren Seid. Excuse me. Also LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. I couldn't tell you what that is. You could just search me. That's a more complex tagline on that URL.
Darren, we appreciate your time, your story, your perspective. We need more people in this space who are doing the things the way that you are. Scaling thoughtfully, building a strong network, and having that deep expertise. It's really great to see.
Thank you, Erika. Thank you very much for the time. It was enjoyable and nice getting to know you.
Yeah, same here. Thanks again for being here. And for our listeners, if you got value from this episode, make sure that you're subscribed to the Real Estate Pro Show. We've got more conversations coming up with pros like Darren who are out there building fantastic real estate empires. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros Show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.